Serenity is born from detachment, Buddhist wisdom. To speak of serenity is to speak of the deepest longing of the human heart. We all search for it, though often without realizing that what we are seeking is not excitement, recognition, or accumulation of possessions, but rather a state of inner balance that is not shaken by the turbulence of life. This serenity is not the dull calm of resignation, but the radiant stillness that comes when the mind is no longer chained by desire, fear, and constant attachment. For centuries, Buddhist wisdom has offered guidance on how to cultivate this inner state, emphasizing again and again that serenity is not found in clinging to things, but in learning to let them go. The truth is that detachment does not mean indifference. It does not mean ceasing to care, abandoning love, or withdrawing from the world. Instead, it means entering into life with a heart so free that joy and compassion can flow naturally, unburdened by the grasping tendency of the ego. The idea that serenity is born from detachment is counterintuitive for many people. We live in societies that teach us from childhood to hold on to our possessions, our relationships, our opinions, and our identities. We are taught that the more we accumulate, the more secure we will feel. Yet this accumulation often brings the opposite. With more to lose, anxiety grows. With every desire inflamed, disappointment lurks nearby. To detach is not to strip life of meaning, but to uncover a deeper meaning that has always been there, hidden beneath the weight of grasping and clinging. In this journey, we will walk through 5 vast and interconnected landscapes of Buddhist teaching, each one expanding our understanding of detachment and its power to create serenity. These are not quick lessons, but deep explorations. Each will reveal how detachment transforms suffering into freedom, restlessness into peace, and confusion into clarity. And as you allow these reflections to resonate, you may find that serenity is not something distant, not something to chase, but something that awakens within you when you dare to release the chains of attachment. Let us begin with the first unfolding of this wisdom, understanding why the root of suffering is attachment, and why only through detachment can serenity become a living reality. The root of suffering and the birth of detachment. In Buddhist thought, one of the most fundamental insights is that suffering, dukkha, arises not simply because the world is harsh or life is full of pain, but because of the way the mind clings to what it desires and resists what it fears. This clinging, this attachment, is the thread that weaves suffering into every fabric of existence. The Buddha himself declared in the Second Noble Truth that the cause of suffering is tanha, craving. Without craving, suffering cannot hold its grip. To understand this more deeply, imagine the common human experience of longing. A person longs for recognition, thinking that if they are admired, serenity will come. Yet as soon as admiration is received, the fear of losing it arises. Another person longs for possessions, imagining that comfort and security will blossom from ownership. Yet once the object is gained, the desire for more arises, and anxiety clings like a shadow. Still another longs for relationships, expecting them to fulfill the emptiness within. Yet as the bond forms, so too does the fear of abandonment or loss. In each case, the problem is not the thing itself, but the attachment to it. The belief that serenity is dependent on possessing or preserving it. Detachment does not mean rejecting the world, nor does it mean abandoning people or responsibilities. Instead, it means loosening the grip of the mind that says, I must have this to be happy, I must keep this forever, or I will suffer. When the mind begins to see through this illusion, a subtle yet powerful transformation begins. Serenity emerges not because external circumstances have changed, but because the chains of craving have been loosened. Consider the parable often told in Buddhist traditions of the monkey trapped by its own grasping. Hunters place food inside a jar with a narrow opening. The monkey reaches in, grabs the food, and becomes trapped because it refuses to let go. The monkey could easily free itself by releasing the food, but it cannot, because desire blinds it. This is our human condition. We cling to wealth, status, pleasure, or relationships as if they were the essence of our being. And like the monkey, we become trapped by the very things we cling to. The door to serenity is open, but our fists remain closed. Detachment teaches us to open the hand, to release. And in that release, freedom dawns. Suddenly the world appears differently. What once seemed like the cause of suffering is revealed as neutral, passing, impermanent. Pain may still exist, loss may still occur, but the heart is not enslaved by them. This is why Buddhist wisdom insists that serenity cannot be purchased, conquered, or won. It can only be allowed to bloom when attachment dissolves. The process of detachment requires courage. To let go of attachment is to face the unknown, to stand without the false securities the ego has built. Yet in this vulnerability lies the seed of serenity. The Buddha's teachings point us again and again to the impermanent nature of all things. Everything changes: our bodies, our emotions, our relationships, even our very identities. When we cling to what is impermanent, we are setting ourselves up for suffering because we are demanding permanence from what is by nature fleeting. Serenity comes when we align with impermanence instead of fighting it. The wave rises and falls, but the ocean remains. In the same way, circumstances come and go, but the serene mind is the vastness that holds them all without being destroyed. This is detachment, not coldness, but spaciousness. A detachment that allows love without fear, joy without grasping, and compassion without exhaustion. The truth is simple yet profound. To be attached is to suffer. To be detached is to be free. In that freedom, serenity is born. And in that serenity, life becomes radiant, even amid challenges. If this journey into the heart of Buddhist wisdom resonates with you, I invite you to continue walking alongside us. There are more profound teachings ahead that will deepen your understanding of detachment and serenity. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next unfolding of this path. The illusion of possession and the path to inner freedom. When we speak of detachment, one of the most misunderstood aspects lies in the relationship we have with possession. From the time we are young, society, family, and culture condition us to believe that what we own defines who we are. A child learns early to cling to toys, to claim them with words like mine, and to defend them fiercely against others. As we grow, the toys change, but the pattern remains. Careers, houses, money, relationships, reputation, and even beliefs become objects of possession. We not only hold these things in our hands, but begin to weave them into our sense of self. We say not only, "This is my home," but also, "This is who I am." And it is in this subtle merging of possession with identity that one of the deepest traps of suffering arises. Buddhist wisdom invites us to examine this illusion of possession. At its heart lies impermanence. Nothing that we possess is truly ours, because nothing can be held forever. Wealth can vanish in a single moment of misfortune. Health can decline with the passing of time. Relationships can change or end, and even our bodies will one day return to the earth. The Buddha taught that clinging to possessions is like grasping at clouds. They may appear solid from a distance, but when we reach out, they slip through our fingers. And yet, though the mind knows on some level that possessions are fleeting, it continues to hold them as if they were the anchor of life itself. This creates a constant tension, an undercurrent of fear and anxiety. To possess is to fear loss. Every new acquisition becomes a seed of potential suffering, because the more we cling, the more we dread the day when it is gone. In this way, possessions do not liberate us, they imprison us. The joy of ownership is quickly followed by the burden of preservation, and the serenity we long for is replaced by the restless cycle of desire and fear. Detachment is the antidote to this illusion. It is not the rejection of possessions, but the refusal to allow them to define us or enslave our hearts. One can have wealth without being owned by it, live in a house without believing the house is the self, or love another person without clinging to them as a guarantee of happiness. Detachment says, use what is given, enjoy what comes, share what you have, but do not mistake any of it for who you are. The person who practices detachment begins to realize that possessions are tools, not masters, gifts, not identities. Consider the story of a wandering monk who carries only a bowl and a robe. For many, such simplicity may appear like deprivation, but for the monk, the absence of possessions is freedom. No one can rob him of his serenity, because his serenity is not dependent on anything outside himself. When food is placed in the bowl, gratitude arises. When the bowl is empty, gratitude remains, for life itself is enough. This does not mean everyone must renounce all possessions, but it does reveal a deeper truth. When we detach from the illusion that possessions can secure serenity, we discover an inner freedom that no wealth can purchase. The modern world, however, makes this path challenging. We are constantly bombarded by images and messages that equate worth with what we own. Advertisements whisper, if you buy this, you will be happy. Social media displays curated lives of luxury, beauty, and abundance, creating the illusion that happiness is a product that can be acquired. And so people chase endlessly, new clothes, new cars, new experiences, new achievements. Yet the hunger never ends, because the void that drives it cannot be filled by external things. Buddhist wisdom cuts through this cycle with the radical insight that serenity comes not from getting more, but from needing less. The practice of detachment begins with awareness. When desire arises, we pause to observe it. We ask, do I believe this possession will give me lasting peace? Or is it a fleeting satisfaction that will soon give birth to another desire? By asking this, the illusion begins to dissolve. The mind starts to see that possessions cannot provide the serenity it craves. From this awareness grows freedom, the freedom to choose, not to cling, the freedom to release the grip of desire. But detachment is not only about material possessions. We also cling to intangible things, our opinions, our beliefs, our self-image. We possess ideas as fiercely as we possess objects, often defending them with anger or violence. We say, this belief is mine, this identity is mine, this way of thinking is mine. And when these mental possessions are challenged, we suffer as if part of ourselves has been attacked. In truth, beliefs are like garments we wear for a time. They can be useful. They can offer warmth, but they are not who we are. To detach from them is to remain open, humble, and receptive to truth as it unfolds. The most profound illusion of possession is the idea that we possess life itself. We act as if time is ours, as if tomorrow is guaranteed, as if we can command the unfolding of events. Yet each breath is a gift, given freely, never earned, never guaranteed. To live with detachment is to awaken each day with gratitude, knowing that life is not a possession, but a sacred flow in which we participate for a brief and precious moment. Serenity arises naturally when we stop clutching at life and instead allow it to move through us with grace. This understanding transforms our relationships with others as well. When we see people as possessions, my friend, my partner, my child, we place upon them the burden of fulfilling our expectations. We grasp at them, trying to make them into guarantees of our happiness. Inevitably, this leads to disappointment, conflict, and suffering, because no person can carry the weight of another's serenity. Detachment invites us to love differently, to love without possession, to love not as clinging but as openness. In such love there is no fear of loss, because love is not a chain but a gift, freely given and freely received. This is the love that blossoms from detachment, a love that is vast, compassionate, and serene. The illusion of possession is deeply ingrained, and letting go is not an easy process. It requires practice, patience, and courage. Meditation becomes a powerful ally here. In meditation, we learn to observe the arising of thoughts, desires, and attachments without grasping at them. We watch them come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky. This simple practice teaches the mind to release its grip, to rest in awareness rather than in possession. Over time, this awareness spreads into daily life, helping us detach not only in meditation, but in every interaction. As detachment grows, a profound shift occurs. We begin to discover a self that is not defined by possessions, not chained to roles, not limited by identities. This self is spacious, luminous, and free. It does not depend on what is owned, but on what is realized. And what is realized is the truth of impermanence, the beauty of presence, and the serenity that arises when we no longer fight against the flow of life. Imagine for a moment living without the constant fear of loss. Imagine enjoying relationships without clinging, experiencing success without being enslaved by it, and facing change without resistance. This is the gift of detachment. It does not remove us from life, but allows us to enter it more fully, because our hearts are not weighed down by the illusion of possession. We become like a bird flying freely in the sky, unburdened by chains, moving gracefully with the winds of change. In the end, the teaching is simple, though difficult to practice. Serenity is not found in holding, but in releasing. We are not defined by what we possess, but by the freedom with which we can let things come and go. Possessions, whether material or mental, can no longer enslave us once we see through their illusion. And in that seeing, in that letting go, serenity is born. If this reflection has touched something within you, if it has illuminated the possibility of freedom beyond possession, I invite you to continue on this journey with us. There are more teachings ahead, deeper insights to explore, and profound truths to awaken. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can continue walking this path towards serenity, born from the wisdom of detachment. Letting go of emotional attachments and discovering true serenity emotions are the most intimate possessions of the human heart. They surge like waves, sometimes gentle and sweet, sometimes overwhelming and destructive, and in their power they shape the way we see the world. Joy lifts us, anger burns within us, fear tightens our chest, sorrow clouds our vision, love expands our being. None of these emotions are inherently wrong, they are part of what it means to be human. Yet what creates suffering is not the emotion itself, but the attachment we develop to it. We cling to joy as if it should last forever, and when it fades, despair arrives. We cling to anger as if it will protect us, and it poisons our hearts. We cling to sorrow, wearing it as an identity, and it consumes our life. In all these cases, attachment to emotions robs us of serenity. Buddhist wisdom points us toward the practice of letting go, not by suppressing emotions, but by seeing them clearly, allowing them to rise and fall without grasping. Imagine for a moment the first sting of anger. Someone offends us, and heat rises in the body. The mind repeats the insult, fuels the flame, and soon anger becomes not just a passing reaction, but a state of possession. We identify with it. I am angry. We nourish it, replaying the wound, imagining retaliation. The anger becomes ours, and we carry it long after the event has passed. But anger is impermanent. If left alone, it dissolves like smoke in the wind. Attachment keeps it alive. The practice of detachment invites us to step back, to see anger as a cloud moving across the sky of the mind. It arises, it lingers, and it fades. When we stop feeding it, serenity returns. The same is true of joy. Joy is beautiful, radiant, and nourishing, yet when we cling to it, fear quickly follows. Fear that it will end, fear that it will not return. The person who wins a success, achieves a goal, or experiences love may fall into attachment, trying desperately to preserve the moment. In doing so, they plant the seed of suffering. Buddhist wisdom encourages us to savor joy fully in the present, but without grasping. Joy, like all things, is impermanent. To detach from it does not mean to reject it, but to embrace it with freedom, knowing it cannot be possessed. Serenity blossoms when we can enjoy joy without chains, letting it come and go as naturally as the rising and setting of the sun. Sorrow perhaps reveals the clinging mind most clearly. When loss comes, whether through death, separation, or change, sorrow arises. This is natural, and there is no shame in grief. But often, sorrow becomes fused with identity. People say, "I am my loss. I am my pain." They carry sorrow for years, unable to release it, as if letting go would mean betrayal. Yet Buddhist detachment teaches us that even sorrow is impermanent, that to hold it forever is to refuse life's flow. To let go is not to dishonor the memory of what was lost, but to honor life by allowing it to continue. In releasing sorrow, we discover that love remains, memory remains, but the chains of grief dissolve. Serenity arises not from denying sorrow, but from embracing impermanence. Fear, too, is born of attachment. We fear losing what we cling to: possessions, health, relationships, identity. Fear thrives in the soil of attachment. When attachment is loosened, fear loses its power. Imagine walking with nothing to defend, nothing to lose. Fear evaporates because its root has been cut. This does not mean recklessness, but freedom. The person who walks lightly, unattached, meets life with courage because nothing external can threaten the serenity within. One of the deepest emotional attachments is love. Love, when pure, is boundless, compassionate, and free. But often, human love becomes tangled with attachment. We cling to the beloved as a source of happiness, demanding their presence, fearing their absence. Love becomes possession, and possession breeds suffering. When the beloved changes, leaves, or dies, the clinging heart is shattered. Yet true love, as Buddhist wisdom reveals, is detached. It loves without owning, gives without demanding, and embraces impermanence. This detached love is not cold, but radiant, a love that allows the other to be free, a love that does not bind, but liberates. Serenity arises when love is transformed from clinging into compassion. The practice of letting go of emotional attachment begins with awareness. Meditation again becomes the foundation. Sitting quietly, we watch emotions arise. We notice joy, sorrow, anger, fear, without clinging to them as mine. We see them as visitors, not as permanent residents. We learn to greet them kindly and allow them to leave. This practice dissolves the illusion that emotions define who we are. They are passing weather, but the sky of awareness remains. Serenity is found in the sky, not in the storm. In daily life, this practice extends to every moment. When insult arises, we breathe, we notice, we let go. When praise arises, we breathe, we notice, we let go. When loss comes, we allow grief but do not fuse with it. When joy comes, we savor without clinging. Slowly, the heart becomes lighter, freer, more serene. We realize that emotions enrich life but do not control it. Detachment does not mean emotional numbness. It means emotional freedom. We feel fully, but we are not enslaved. This freedom transforms relationships. Instead of demanding from others the impossible task of sustaining our happiness, we meet them with compassion. We love without fear because we are not clinging. We forgive more easily because we are not chained to anger. We support others without being drowned by their sorrow because we are not bound by attachment. Relationships become spaces of freedom rather than prisons of need. Serenity arises naturally when love is detached, compassionate, and free. The deeper we go, the more we see that detachment is not about losing emotions, but about discovering their true nature. Emotions are like waves, rising and falling, but beneath them is the ocean of awareness. To identify with the waves is to suffer. To rest in the ocean is to be serene. Detachment invites us to dive deep, to discover the vastness beneath the surface, where serenity is always present. Imagine standing at the edge of a river, watching leaves float by. Some are bright and beautiful, some are dark and decaying, but all pass. To attach to one leaf is to suffer, for it will be carried away. To watch them all pass without clinging is to find peace. Our emotions are these leaves. Our awareness is the riverbank. Serenity is found when we stop grasping at the leaves and instead rest in the watching. The challenge, of course, is that attachment to emotions feels natural. We are conditioned to say, "This joy is mine, this anger is mine, this sorrow is mine." The practice of detachment requires patience, for the habit of clinging is deep. But each time we notice and release, the chains weaken. Each time we let go, serenity grows stronger. Over time, we discover that we are no longer swept away by every emotion, but rest in the calm beneath. The ultimate letting go is perhaps with life itself. Fear of death is the final attachment. We cling to life, fearing its end, and this fear robs us of serenity. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that life and death are not possessions, they are flows of impermanence. To detach from life does not mean to reject it, but to embrace it fully without clinging. Each breath becomes precious because it is not ours to keep. Serenity blossoms when we release even the fear of death, seeing it as part of the great unfolding. When we let go of emotional attachments, serenity emerges not as an abstract idea, but as a lived reality. We discover a heart that is open yet unbound, compassionate yet free, joyful yet unattached. This heart moves through the world like a clear stream, nourishing all it touches without clinging to anything. If these words resonate with you, if you wish to continue exploring how detachment frees us from suffering and opens the door to serenity, then I invite you to walk further on this journey with us. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the unfolding of these profound teachings, which continue to reveal how Buddhist wisdom transforms every aspect of life. Freedom from the chains of desire and the awakening of inner peace. Desire is the engine that drives much of human life. It propels us forward, pushes us to achieve, to seek, to chase, to acquire. Entire economies are built upon the cultivation and multiplication of desire, and entire lifetimes are consumed by its endless fire. We desire wealth, recognition, power, love, comfort, and countless smaller satisfactions that arise every day. To the modern mind, desire is often celebrated as motivation, as the spark of progress, as the reason to live. Yet Buddhist wisdom points to a deeper truth. Desire, when left unchecked, becomes the root of suffering. It does not bring peace, but restlessness. It does not bring fulfillment, but emptiness, disguised as pursuit. The serene heart is not one that burns endlessly with desire, but one that has found freedom from its chains. The Buddha identified craving, tanha, as the cause of suffering in the second noble truth. This craving is not merely the natural arising of preference or need. It is the obsessive clinging that believes happiness depends on fulfillment. Desire whispers, "When I have this, I will be complete." But when the object is gained, the satisfaction is fleeting and new desires emerge. It is like drinking salt water. The more one drinks, the more thirst intensifies. The cycle never ends, and the mind remains restless, never at peace. Detachment from desire does not mean becoming lifeless or indifferent. It does not mean rejecting all pleasures or living without goals. Instead, it means seeing desire clearly for what it is, a wave that rises, crests and falls, never truly satisfying the depths of the ocean. Detachment teaches us to enjoy life without being enslaved by the craving for more. It teaches us to work, love, and live with freedom, rather than with chains. When we are free from desire's grip, serenity arises naturally, like a clear sky revealed when the storm passes. Consider the person who longs for wealth. They labor, they strive, they sacrifice, believing that when enough money is gathered, peace will follow. But enough never comes, because desire always expands its boundaries. When the first goal is reached, a new one arises, and the cycle continues. The mind is never satisfied because desire feeds on itself. Another person longs for recognition, dreaming that fame will bring happiness. But recognition only breeds the hunger for more recognition, and criticism or neglect becomes unbearable. Yet another longs for romantic love, imagining it will fill the emptiness within. But once love is found, fear of loss arises, jealousy awakens, and the imagined perfection fades into conflict and disillusionment. In each case, desire promises serenity, but delivers suffering. Freedom from desire begins with awareness. We must learn to observe the arising of desire without immediately obeying it. In meditation, we see desire as a thought, a sensation, a fleeting image in the mind. It arises, it tempts, it promises, but if we sit quietly, it fades. This observation reveals a great secret. We do not need to satisfy every desire. We can watch it arise and dissolve, and in doing so, we are free. This freedom is the seed of serenity, because it shows us that happiness does not depend on chasing every craving, but on seeing through the illusion they create. Some desires are natural and necessary: hunger for food, thirst for water, need for shelter. These sustain life. Buddhist wisdom does not deny these, but it warns us not to inflate them into endless craving. Eating to sustain life is different from clinging to pleasure in every bite. Resting for strength is different from clinging to luxury. Love as compassion is different from clinging to possession. Detachment invites us to meet natural needs with balance, while refusing to let craving dominate the heart. The chains of desire are also psychological. We desire control, certainty, permanence. We want the world to conform to our plans, people to meet our expectations, life to unfold according to our script. But the world is fluid, uncertain, impermanent. The desire for control only breeds frustration and anxiety. Serenity is born when we release the demand for control, when we surrender to life's flow. This surrender is not defeat, but freedom, for it aligns us with reality instead of fighting against it. Imagine standing by a river, demanding that it flow backward. Such is the foolishness of desire when it resists impermanence. The wise person releases the demand, floats with the current, and discovers peace in the movement itself. This is the heart of detachment. Not to stop living, but to stop fighting the nature of life. Desire is the resistance. Detachment is the flow. Serenity is found not in stopping the river, but in floating with grace. The modern world magnifies desire through endless stimulation. Every advertisement is a spark of craving, every device a tool of distraction, every message a whisper of discontent. We are told we are not enough, that we must have more, be more, do more. This constant feeding of desire creates a restless culture where serenity is rare. Buddhist detachment offers a radical alternative: silence amid noise, contentment amid craving, stillness amid chaos. By turning inward, by observing desire without feeding it, we begin to step out of the cycle. Freedom from desire also transforms relationships. Much of human interaction is driven by craving. Craving for approval, craving for affection, craving for validation. We use others as mirrors for our desires, and when they fail to reflect what we seek, resentment arises. Detachment dissolves this pattern. When we release craving, we can meet others as they are, not as we demand them to be. We love without clinging, we give without expecting, we support without controlling. This is not a cold withdrawal, but a warm, compassionate freedom. Serenity arises when relationships are no longer arenas of craving, but spaces of authentic connection. The greatest desire is perhaps the desire for permanence. We wish life to last, health to remain, loved ones to stay, youth to endure. This desire is at the root of suffering, for impermanence is the law of all things. To desire permanence is to fight reality itself. The path of detachment teaches us to accept impermanence with grace. When we stop demanding that life be other than it is, we discover a serenity deeper than any temporary pleasure. We begin to see that every moment is precious precisely because it is impermanent. Letting go of desire is a lifelong practice. It is not about extinguishing the flame of life, but about mastering it. When desire arises, we do not fear it, but we do not worship it either. We observe, we release, we return to presence. Over time, the grip of craving weakens, and a profound stillness emerges. This stillness is not emptiness, but fullness, the fullness of being free, of being present, of being serene. Imagine walking through the world with nothing to chase, nothing to resist, nothing to demand. Imagine working, loving, creating, and living not from craving, but from freedom. This is the life of detachment, the life where serenity blossoms naturally. It is a life where peace is not postponed until the next desire is met but discovered here and now in the release of craving. The chains of desire can seem strong, but they are made of illusion. The more we see through them, the weaker they become. Each time we release, serenity grows. Each time we let go, freedom deepens. The journey is gradual, but the destination is already here, waiting in the present moment. For serenity is not something to be gained after desire ends. It is what remains when we stop clinging. If these teachings speak to you, if they awaken a longing for freedom beyond craving, then I invite you to continue walking with us. There is still more wisdom to uncover, more serenity to discover. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can keep exploring the profound path of detachment and the serenity it brings. The liberation of the self through detachment and the birth of unshakable serenity. At the deepest level of human suffering lies not merely the attachment to objects, people, emotions, or desires, but the attachment to the self itself. We cling not only to what is external, but also to the idea of I, the identity we believe defines us, the story we repeat in our minds. We say, I am this profession, I am this body, I am this history, I am these successes, I am these failures. And this sense of self becomes a possession, perhaps the most tightly guarded possession of all. We protect it fiercely, defend it with pride, feed it with praise, and mourn when it is wounded. And yet, just like all other possessions, this self is impermanent, fluid, and ultimately illusory. To cling to it is to cling to a shadow, and in that clinging, serenity remains forever distant. Buddhist wisdom offers a radical vision. The self we cling to is not the essence of who we are. It is a construction, a collection of memories, habits, labels, and fleeting experiences. Beneath it lies a vast awareness that cannot be defined, owned, or destroyed. To detach from the self is to awaken to this awareness, to discover a serenity that no insult, loss, or change can touch. This is perhaps the highest detachment, the release of the illusion of a permanent, separate self. To understand this, imagine a river. We may point to it and say, this is the river, as if it were a fixed object, yet the water that flows is never the same. Each moment the river changes, yet we still call it by one name. The self is the same. We call it I, but every breath, every thought, every cell, every experience changes. The person who wakes in the morning is not exactly the same as the one who sleeps at night, and yet we cling to the illusion of permanence, saying, this is me. Buddhist detachment invites us to see through this illusion, to realize that the self is a process, not a possession. When we release our grip on this illusion, a vast serenity opens. The clinging to self takes many forms. Pride is one. We build our identity on achievements, appearances, roles, and reputations. We defend these fiercely, for we believe they are who we are. But when life takes them away, as it inevitably does, we suffer. Another form is shame, the negative attachment to a wounded self-image. We cling to failures, to wounds, to pain, saying, "This is me," and we imprison ourselves in sorrow. In both pride and shame, the problem is the same: attachment to an illusory self. Serenity is born when we detach from this illusion, when we see that neither pride nor shame defines the truth of what we are. Meditation becomes the doorway to this liberation. Sitting in silence, we observe thoughts arising, memories, judgments, identities. We see the mind declaring, "I am this, I am that," and we watch as these declarations dissolve. Slowly, we realize that we are not the thoughts, not the labels, not the roles. We are the awareness that watches them come and go. This awareness is spacious, serene, unshaken by the changing flow. To rest in this awareness is to taste unshakable serenity. Detachment from the self does not mean indifference to life. It does not mean abandoning responsibilities or denying existence. It means living fully without being enslaved by the illusion of identity. The parent cares for the child, the teacher guides the student, the worker fulfills the task, the lover embraces the beloved. But beneath all these roles there is freedom. The self is worn like a garment, used when needed, set aside when not. Serenity arises because we are no longer trapped in the prison of I. When the illusion of self dissolves, compassion blossoms. If I am not a separate, permanent self, then the boundaries between myself and others soften. I begin to see others not as separate possessions of identity, but as expressions of the same awareness. Their suffering is not separate from mine, their joy not foreign to mine. Detachment from self leads to love without barriers, compassion without limits. This is the serenity of unity, of realizing that we are all waves of the same ocean. Detachment at this level also dissolves the fear of death. What we fear most is the loss of self, the end of I. But if I is not a permanent possession, then what is there to lose? The body changes, the mind changes, the story changes, and awareness remains. Death is another change in the flow, another transformation of form. To cling to the self is to live in fear of its end. To detach from it is to discover serenity even in the face of mortality. Death loses its sting because the illusion it threatens has already been released. This liberation transforms daily life. Imagine walking through the world without the constant need to defend the self, to prove its worth, to protect its image. Imagine being free from the endless hunger for validation, the fear of criticism, the weight of comparison. This is the serenity of detachment from self. We live more lightly, laugh more easily, forgive more quickly, and love more deeply. We no longer carry the heavy burden of me everywhere we go. We simply are, free and serene. The practice of this detachment is gradual. Each day offers opportunities to release the grip of self. When praised, we notice the swelling of pride and let it go. When criticized, we notice the sting of defense and let it go. When the mind clings to identity, I am this, I must be seen this way, we breathe and let it go. Each letting go is a step toward liberation, a step toward serenity. Slowly, the chains weaken, and the vastness of awareness opens before us. The ultimate serenity born from detachment is not cold emptiness, but radiant presence. It is not a void, but a fullness, a peace that permeates every moment. It is unshakable, because it does not depend on anything external or internal. It does not depend on possessions, relationships, emotions, desires, or even the self. It rests in awareness itself, which is beyond clinging. This is the serenity the Buddha pointed toward, the serenity that is born when the fires of attachment are extinguished, when the illusion of self dissolves, when the heart rests in freedom. This path is not easy. It demands courage to face impermanence, humility to release pride, patience to sit with emptiness, and faith to trust the unfolding. But its promise is profound: freedom from suffering, awakening of compassion, and the discovery of serenity that cannot be shaken by the storms of life. To walk this path is to move from bondage to freedom, from illusion to truth, from restlessness to peace. And so the journey of detachment comes full circle. We began with the recognition that attachment to things creates suffering, that serenity is born from letting go. We saw that possessions, emotions, desires, and even the self are illusions when clung to. We discovered that detachment does not mean loss, but liberation, not emptiness, but fullness. In releasing, we gain. In letting go, we are free. In detachment, serenity is born. If these reflections have illuminated something in your heart, if they have awakened a sense of the serenity that lies within, then I invite you to continue this journey with us. There is always more to explore, more to release, more serenity to discover. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can keep walking this path of Buddhist wisdom, where detachment becomes liberation and serenity becomes your constant companion.